There's something that happens after 60 that nobody really talks about openly, and I want to address it directly today. It's not just feeling tired more easily. It's not just taking longer to get up in the morning. What I'm talking about is something far more significant. It's the slow, quiet loss of the strength that gives you your independence. The ability to carry your own groceries, to stand up from a chair without having to think about it, to climb a flight of stairs and not feel like you've done something remarkable just by reaching the top. Sarcopenia, that's the medical term for the age-related loss of muscle mass, begins earlier than most people expect, and it accelerates significantly after the age of 60. And the standard advice that most Americans over 60 have been given: take more protein, buy a better protein powder, pick up a tub of this shake or that supplement. Here's what's genuinely surprising, though. The research we now have available tells a very different story. Some of the most nutrient-dense, muscle-up supportive foods in existence cost less than $1 per serving. In many cases, the whole food versions of these proteins are outperforming isolated protein supplements in studies specifically conducted on older adults, not in studies on 25-year-old athletes, on people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 of those foods. What the science actually says, why each one works the way it does for aging muscle specifically, and how to get the most out of each one. If you're over 60 or caring for someone who is, I think you'll find this genuinely useful. Before we begin, I want to be clear. This is educational content based on published nutritional research. It is not personalized medical advice. If you have kidney disease, diabetes, or any condition that affects how your body processes protein, please talk to your physician before making major changes to your diet. Every individual is different, and your doctor knows your full picture. With that said, let's get into it. The first food is one that's sitting right now in most refrigerators across America, and the majority of people eating it have no idea how powerful it actually is for muscle maintenance after 60. Plain Greek yogurt. What makes Greek yogurt genuinely different from regular yogurt and from most protein supplements comes down to its protein structure. Greek yogurt is predominantly casein protein. Quinoa is what scientists call a slow-digesting protein, meaning it doesn't flood your bloodstream with amino acids all at once and then disappear. Instead, it creates a sustained, gradual release of amino acids that keeps your muscle tissue supplied over an extended period. This matters enormously for older adults. And here's why. Research published in peer-reviewed journals confirms something important about aging muscle. It becomes more resistant to short bursts of protein. It needs a steadier, more prolonged amino acid supply to mount a proper muscle-building response. Cuisine's slow-release profile aligns almost perfectly with that need. On top of the casein, Greek yogurt also contains leucine, one of the branch-chain amino acids that has been specifically identified as a key trigger for muscle protein synthesis. And because it's a fermented food, it delivers live bacterial cultures that support gut health and nutrient absorption. That last piece is easy to underestimate. A significant portion of the seniors I hear from aren't failing to eat enough protein. They're failing to absorb it properly. A healthy gut makes the protein you eat actually useful. A 2023 review, published in the journal Nutrients, examined how yogurt's fermentation process changes the physical and biological properties of its protein compared to regular milk, and concluded that fermented dairy protein has measurable advantages in digestibility and amino acid delivery. Precisely the characteristics that aging digestive systems need. For practical use, stick to plain full-fat or low-fat Greek yogurt rather than the flavored varieties, which are typically loaded with added sugar. A 3-4 cup serving in the morning or as a pre-meal snack is a solid foundation. Try pairing it with fresh berries and a few walnuts. The antioxidants from the berries help reduce post-meal inflammation, and the healthy fats from walnuts slow digestion just enough to make the amino acid release even more gradual. One small practical tip: let refrigerated Greek yogurt sit at room temperature for about 10 minutes before eating. This can make it slightly easier on a digestive system that with age produces somewhat less stomach acid. This is one of the most accessible, affordable, and well-researched foods for muscle maintenance available anywhere in the United States, and most people already own it. Food 2: canned sardines. I want to spend a little more time on this one because sardines may be the most nutrient-dense, affordable food in existence for anyone over 60, and they are almost universally overlooked. A single can of sardines, which costs about $1 in most American grocery stores, delivers roughly 20 to 23 grams of complete protein. But protein isn't even the most important part of the story here. What makes sardines exceptional for older adults specifically is their combination of omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D. Let's talk about both. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the forms found in fatty fish, have been studied extensively in the context of aging muscle. Research published in major journals has confirmed that omega-3 fatty acids help reduce the chronic low-grade inflammation that accumulates in aging muscle tissue. This inflammation is one of the primary reasons why older adults struggle to rebuild muscle even when they're eating adequate protein. The omega-3s essentially lower that inflammatory barrier, making the protein you eat more effective. A major multinational clinical trial called the DU Health Study, published in JAMA, tested omega-3 supplementation alongside vitamin D and exercise in over 2,100 adults aged 70 and older. And a 2025 follow-up analysis, published in Nature Aging, found that omega-3 supplementation alone measurably slowed biological aging as assessed by epigenetic clocks. These are real published findings from institutions including Harvard's Chan School of Public Health, not marketing claims. Now, the vitamin D piece. Data consistently shows that a significant proportion of older Americans are deficient in vitamin D, and that deficiency has direct consequences for muscle function. Vitamin D plays an active role in muscle protein synthesis. It enhances the body's ability to use the protein you eat to actually build and repair muscle tissue. Sardines are one of the rare foods that are genuinely rich in vitamin D naturally without fortification. The combination of protein, vitamin D, and anti-inflammatory omega-3s in a single food makes sardines extraordinarily valuable for aging muscle. Add to that the calcium from the soft edible bones, which also supports proper muscle contraction, and you have something that no isolated protein powder can replicate with a single scoop. Choose sardines packed in water or olive oil. Always buy the kind with bones included. They're completely safe to eat, soft, and the calcium from them is highly absorbable. Try mashing them with half an avocado, a squeeze of lemon, and a little mustard on whole grain crackers. The combination gives you healthy fat, slow carbohydrates, and complete protein in one simple meal. If the smell bothers you, and that's a legitimate concern, hot sauce, capers, or a good amount of mustard can mask most of it without removing any of the nutritional value. Try to include sardines 2 to 3 times per week. For seniors who want one food that addresses multiple aging-related nutritional gaps simultaneously, sardines are genuinely hard to beat. For decades, the nutritional messaging around eggs was confusing at best. The yolk was treated almost as a hazardous material, something to be discarded in favor of the white. That view has changed substantially in the scientific literature, and the change is particularly relevant for older adults trying to preserve muscle. Here's what the research actually shows. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that eating whole eggs after resistance exercise produced a greater increase in myofibrillar protein synthesis, the specific type of protein synthesis responsible for muscle fiber growth and repair, compared to eating an identical amount of protein from egg whites alone. The protein content of the two groups was matched exactly. The difference was the yolk. Despite having the same amount of protein available, the whole eggs triggered a meaningfully stronger muscle-building response. A follow-up study in the journal Nature using muscle biopsies and isotope tracing found a specific molecular explanation. Whole egg ingestion, but not egg white ingestion, induced the recruitment of a key cellular complex called mTORK1 to the Lowell surface. That's significant because mTOR1 is considered one of the master regulators of muscle protein synthesis, and its activation at the loom is associated with enhanced translation of new muscle proteins. Something in the yolk, likely a combination of vitamin D, phosphatidic acid, healthy fats, and microRNAs, is activating that pathway in a way that egg whites alone simply cannot. This is important for older adults specifically because mTORQ1 activation becomes harder to achieve with age. The anabolic. Resistance that develops in aging muscle means that maximizing every possible anabolic signal matters more not less. Discarding the yolk removes one of those signals. 2 to 3 whole eggs per day is a reasonable target for most healthy older adults. Soft-boiled or poached eggs preserve more of the yolk's heat-sensitive nutrients than scrambling at high temperatures, though any preparation that doesn't char the yolk retains the majority of benefit. Pairing eggs with a source of vitamin C, fresh tomato, bell pepper, a little fresh salsa enhances iron absorption from the yolk, which matters for muscle endurance and oxygen delivery. Serve them with a slice of whole grain toast and a handful of spinach, and you have a complete balanced muscle-up supporting breakfast for under $2. Food for black beans. This one surprises people, and I understand why. We tend not to think of beans as a serious muscle food, but the research here is genuinely compelling, and it addresses something that plant-based eaters over 60 often worry about: whether plant protein can actually match animal protein for muscle maintenance. A half-cup serving of black beans provides roughly 15 grams of protein, along with substantial fiber, complex carbohydrates, and a wide range of minerals. But what makes them particularly interesting for aging muscle is a combination of factors that goes beyond raw protein content. First, fiber and blood sugar stability. Black beans contain both soluble and insoluble fiber, which slows the digestion of everything you eat them with. Stable blood sugar after meals matters for muscle because blood sugar spikes followed by crashes create hormonal environments that are mildly catabolic, meaning they can slightly accelerate muscle breakdown. The fiber in beans creates a more favorable hormonal environment after meals. Second, the gut connection. Black beans are rich in resistant starch, a type of carbohydrate that resists digestion in the small intestine and instead feeds beneficial bacteria in the colon. There is a growing body of research examining what scientists call the gut-muscle axis, the communication pathway between gut microbiome health and skeletal muscle function. While this field is still developing, the current evidence suggests that a healthy, diverse gut microbiome plays a meaningful supporting role in muscle protein metabolism and anti-inflammatory signaling. Third, the antioxidant load. Black beans are one of the highest antioxidant plant foods available. Oxidative stress, the accumulation of cellular damage from free radicals, is a significant driver of the muscle breakdown that accelerates after 60. The anthocyanins and polyphenols in black beans help neutralize that oxidative stress at the cellular level. For practical preparation, soaking dried black beans overnight in cold water, perhaps with a small splash of apple cider vinegar, reduces compounds that can inhibit mineral absorption and makes them easier to digest. Cooking them slowly with cumin and bay leaves helps digestibility further. Combining black beans with brown rice in roughly a 1:1 ratio creates what nutritionists call a complementary protein. The amino acid profiles of the two foods together provide all essential amino acids in balanced proportions, making the combination comparable to a complete animal protein. A squeeze of lime juice over the finished dish adds vitamin C, which meaningfully improves the absorption of the plant-based iron in the beans. Food 5. Cottage cheese. If I could prescribe one food specifically for nighttime muscle maintenance in adults over 60, it would be cottage cheese, and I want to explain precisely why. The overnight period, the 8 or so hours of sleep, represents the longest stretch of the day during which the body goes without protein intake. Research has consistently shown that muscle protein balance tends to be negative during this overnight fasting state. That means more muscle tissue is being broken down than is being built. For young people with fully responsive anabolic systems, this deficit is easily recovered during the day. For adults over 60, whose muscle protein synthesis response is already blunted, that nightly catabolic window is a real problem. Pre-lean protein ingestion has been studied specifically as a strategy to address this. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Nutrition tested 48 older men with an average age of 72. They were given either casein protein or a placebo before sleep. The group that ingested casein had measurably higher overnight muscle protein synthesis rates compared to the placebo group. A systematic review published in 2020 in a European nutrition journal confirmed this finding across multiple trials. Consuming roughly 20 to 40 grams of casein Approximately 30 minutes before sleep stimulates overnight whole-body protein synthesis in both young and older adults. Cottage cheese is a whole food casein source. 1 cup of full-fat cottage cheese contains approximately 25 grams of protein, predominantly casein, in a natural food matrix that also provides calcium, B vitamins, and phosphorus. Research from Florida State University specifically examined cottage cheese as a pre-LE food, not a supplement, but actual whole food, and found that it performed comparably to isolated casein supplements in supporting overnight recovery. The researchers themselves noted that this was important because it shows whole food, and supplemental protein can produce similar results, giving people more practical, affordable options. The practical recommendation is straightforward. 1 cup of plain cottage cheese 30 to 60 minutes before bed. If the texture doesn't appeal to you, blend it with a little pineapple. The bromelain enzyme in fresh pineapple helps break down protein and can improve digestibility, or mix in a tablespoon of ground flaxseed and some fresh berries. The additional fat from the flaxseed will slow digestion further, potentially extending the amino acid release window even deeper into the night. This is one of the simplest and most evidence-backed nutritional strategies for muscle preservation in older adults, and a cup of cottage cheese costs about 50 yens. The final food on this list may be the one with the most underappreciated molecular mechanism of all 6. And I want to take a moment to explain what I mean by that. Lentils are a nutritional staple in many of the world's longest-lived populations. A half-cup serving of cooked lentils provides about 9 Dre of plant-based protein, along with substantial iron, folate, fiber, and complex carbohydrates. But what has drawn increasing scientific interest is a compound found in lentils and other legumes called spermidine. Spermidine is a naturally occurring polyamine. Research published in leading journals including Science and Nature Aging has identified spermidine as one of the most promising natural compounds for healthy aging at the cellular level. Here's the mechanism. Spermidine stimulates a cellular process called autophagy. Autophagy is essentially the body's internal cellular maintenance system. It identifies and clears out damaged, dysfunctional cellular components and replaces them with new ones. This process is crucial for muscle cell longevity, energy production within muscle mitochondria, and overall tissue quality. Critically, spermidine levels in the body decline with age. Research shows that this decline tracks closely with reduced cellular maintenance activity and the onset of many age-related conditions. Studies have found that higher dietary intake of spermidine from foods like lentils, chickpeas, and wheat germ is associated with reduced all-cause mortality in population studies. Research published in Nature Aging in 2025 identified spermidine's influence on biological aging through epigenetic clocks. This is genuinely emerging science, not fringe theory. Lentils are one of the most accessible dietary sources of spermidine available. They also provide a very well-balanced combination of protein and slow-digesting carbohydrates that gives muscle tissue both the amino acids to rebuild with and the steady fuel to operate efficiently. A combination of lentils with quinoa in roughly a 2:1 ratio creates a complete protein with all essential amino acids. Cooking lentils in bone broth instead of water adds collagen, derived amino acids that support both muscle and connective tissue. Adding turmeric and black pepper to your lentils is genuinely worthwhile. The active compound in turmeric curcumin has well-documented anti-inflammatory properties, and the piperine in black pepper substantially increases its absorption. Sprouting lentils for 48 hours before cooking is a technique worth trying. Sprouting activates enzymes in the legume that increase the bioavailability of its nutrients and can improve digestibility, particularly valuable for older digestive systems. So there they are, 6 foods, all available at any grocery store in America, all under $1 a serving in most cases, all supported by real published research. Greek yogurt, canned sardines, whole eggs, black beans, cottage cheese, and lentils. What these 6 foods share is that they don't just deliver protein in isolation. They deliver protein alongside the supporting cast of nutrients, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, fermentation cultures, resistant starch, antioxidants, spermidine that aging muscle specifically needs to use that protein effectively. That distinction is what the research keeps returning to when comparing whole foods to isolated protein supplements. The food matrix matters, especially as we age. I want to be honest with you about something before you close out of this video. None of these foods are magic. Nutrition is one piece of a larger picture that includes physical activity, even light resistance training or walking, adequate sleep, and proper medical oversight of any existing conditions. But for the piece of the picture that nutrition can address, these foods are genuinely effective, evidence-based, and far more affordable than most people realize. If this was useful to you, please consider sharing it with someone you care about who might benefit. And if you have questions or topics you'd like me to cover, drop them in the comments below. I read them. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next